Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Monday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and we've got an interesting video today. We've got some mountain thunderstorms that could move into the lowlands. You'll definitely be able to see them from the lowlands, and then we're also going to have some smoky skies over the next couple of days here. So starting with this interesting satellite loop here, you can see we've got the marine clouds that are retreating out of the strait there, out of the lowlands, and you're still socked in across most of the Washington coast there, but you can see those clouds are starting to burn off. But take a look here over the Cascades. You can see this convection starting to build on the eastern slopes and pushing westward there. We're going to have thunderstorms across the Cascades today, and that's going to be, you can see some of those storms forming right here, especially across the southern part of British Columbia and then parts of the northern Washington Cascades. These will build across parts of the central and southern Washington Cascades later today as well. So this is definitely something we're going to need to watch, and I'll take a look at it more here in the video. Taking a look at our overall pattern, we have this trough moving out of the area here. You can see it moves out of the area through the day tomorrow. We get a little bit of ridging in there. That's going to bring us a nice warm couple of days, middle of the week here. And then as we go into toward the later part of this week, we get some more troughing moving into the area, and that'll cool us down some more. And there are some potentials for thunderstorms over the next few days, especially going into maybe next week. And so we're going to have to watch that closely. But yeah, overall, not a super hot or super cool pattern. We're kind of going to be in the middle, though we are going to induce a little bit of upper level smoke, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Taking a look here at precipitation type, you can see where those thunderstorms are going to be today across some of the mountains as we go into this evening, and then you can see as we go through the next few days, maybe some thunderstorms across eastern Washington on Tuesday, and then you can see we remain mostly dry across western Washington through almost all of this week. You can see maybe a few mountain showers at times, and that is about it all the way through Sunday and then into next week. So that is a nice look for summer, but again, we're staying pretty dry, so that fire danger is pretty high. Taking a look now at lightning flash density, you can see as we go into this afternoon, you start having some of these storms build up across the crest of the Cascades and the North Cascades there. Then take a look as we go into 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. You can see where those storms are right along the crest of the mountains, especially from Snoqualmie Pass northward there. You can see how those continue into the afternoon and evening and then start to diminish as we go toward 8 p.m. there. By 11 p.m. to midnight, the storms are pretty much gone, although we will take a look at that in higher resolution, and we see that that may not entirely be the case. And then you can see as we go into Tuesday, look at all these storms popping up across parts of eastern Washington, especially up here near Spokane and Kettle Falls and stuff like that. And that's a little bit concerning because there are already some fires in this area, and that may continue. And you can see storms diminish as we go into Tuesday night. But today is going to be the day for the storms across the Cascades that you will likely see from the metro area. So let's take a look at that in more detail here. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model. You can see this shows it in much higher resolution. As we go toward 1 to 2 p.m., you start to get these storms developing. You can see they continue through 4 to 5, 6 p.m. there. And as we get towards 6 p.m., they start to be a little bit more north of in Snohomish County northward there in the Cascades. You can see then as we go toward 10 p.m. tonight, some of these storms start to push south into the lowlands a little bit. You can see this one here over parts of the Gulf Islands and Vancouver Island around 10 p.m. And look at some of these crossing in toward Whatcom County there, toward Linden and Sumas, and then some over here by Blaine as we go to about midnight. And some of these dying storms push south through Skagit County toward Camino and Whidbey Islands and then diminish as we get to about 3 to 4 a.m. So this is definitely something to watch if you're up here in the northwest part of western Washington from the Canadian border down toward Snohomish County, that there may be some dying thunderstorms as we go toward 3 to 4 a.m. And sometimes these can even push an outflow boundary with some gusty winds in front of them as well. Although these won't necessarily be super strong, so that's not too likely. But it's something to keep in mind that there will potentially be some dying storms moving into western Washington early Tuesday morning. So now taking a look at simulated radar, you can see as we go to 1 to 2, 3 p.m. there, how you got a lot of storms developing across the Cascades. These should look pretty cool from the metro area. You get some anvils and stuff like that. And you can see as we go toward 5 p.m., you start to get some storms encroaching into the lower mainland of Vancouver there. A couple storms across the Olympics. These storms start to strengthen even more as we go towards 6 to 7 p.m. on the North Cascades there. Then you get storms starting to spill into the Sunshine Coast and down toward Vancouver Island there. And then as we get to about 10 to 11 p.m., you start having these dying storms pushing south across western Washington from about Abbotsford, the Canadian border there, down toward Arlington and just diminishing as they get toward Everett there and becoming nothing as they reach Seattle there. So there is a potential. It's not a super high chance for those storms, but it may happen, and it is something to keep in mind. So now let's take a look here at temperatures real quick. You can see today we're going to have highs from Seattle northward in the mid-70s to low 80s, Seattle southward in the upper 70s to low 80s, coast in the mid-60s. We start to warm up under the influence of a ridge tomorrow. We have highs in the upper 70s to low 80s from Seattle north and about the same from Seattle south there. And you can see, excuse me, in the Willamette Valley there in southwest Washington, you have highs in the low to mid 80s, and the coast is still in the mid 60s. Wednesday is going to be the hottest day this week under that ridge. You can see from Seattle northward, you have highs in the upper 70s to mid 80s east of I-5. And then from Seattle southward, you have highs in the low to mid 80s. And then southwest Washington from Olympia down toward Portland, you have highs in the mid 80s to low 90s. And the coast even will be a little bit warmer with highs in the upper 60s. Then as we go to Thursday, we start to cool back down, upper 70s to low 80s for most of western Washington, except Clark County there with highs in the mid 80s. Coast back to the mid 60s. As we go into Friday, from Seattle northward, you have highs in the in the upper 60s to low 70s, and then from Seattle southward, you have highs in the mid 70s there on Friday. Down toward Clark County, there you have highs in the low 80s, and then still mid 60s on the coast. Then as we go into next weekend, about the same there, 70s across the region. So we'll continue watching that as we go the next few days, but nothing too significant in terms of temperatures, Wednesday being that hottest day in the mid-80s. Now let's take a look here at smoke. So you can see we've got these fires here in eastern Washington. You've got the Burgoyne fire that has rapidly burned over 10,000 acres in the Columbia River Gorge, threatening the town of Lisle, and is just continuing to spread there. But you can see not as much smoke coming off that today, which is good to see. See a little bit of smoke off the Bear Gulch fire there in Mason County there near Lake Cushman. And then you see as we go into this evening, we start to drag some smoke down as we get these storms pushing down and that ridge building influencing us with northerly flow. And you can see as we go into Tuesday morning, it's going to be a hazy sunrise as we have this smoke aloft moving down from British Columbia. And you can see that continues impacting western Washington and western Oregon all the way through early Wednesday there before it starts to get shunted off to the east. Now, thankfully, this is not going to cause much of an impact with air quality. You can see near-surface smoke remains in the Olympic Mountains with the Bear Gulch fire near Lake Cushman, and then as this smoke starts to move south from British Columbia, the near-surface smoke remains in the mountains. So that's good to see. You can see it stays in the mountains there. So basically, those higher elevations is where that smoke is. In eastern Washington, especially up in the Okanagan area, you may get some surface smoke, and then as along the Spokane River as well with some of those fires. But western Washington is looking good. You shouldn't have much, if any, surface smoke with this pattern. But you can see how it does linger for a little bit in the mountains there. So if you are going to be recreating in the mountains or in parts of eastern Washington, be prepared for surface smoke and slightly degraded air quality. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe here to Western Washington Weather and follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook. And all the links to these are in the description. I'll be doing some updates today with those thunderstorms in the Cascades, so stay tuned for that. And I will talk to you all later.